Good evening, everyone. I'm back once again, and I hope you're all doing very, very well. So we've got ourselves a 10,000 subscriber special video here. First off, I've got myself a shiny, brand spanking new avatar. You can see it's got a lot of work put into it. It's got itself a nice look to it. I'm now officially a box bot. I know the last one was a little bit wonky. It didn't really work right. And when I tried talking, it would just break. So I fixed it by not having any moving parts whatsoever. Hopefully that's going to work a little bit better. And with that, we can go ahead and get to the video. Now, in honor of having so many of you decide to follow me and watch my daily Limbus content, my daily Runa content as well, going through mod stuff like that, I went ahead and decided to do a little bit of content that would let me give back to the community, as it were. Basically an informational thing, something that would be really cool that you could just have around. No more playing around. It's a tier list. We're doing a tier list video. Hello, welcome to all Lobotomy Corporation Abnormalities, a tier list by TQ, age 6. We will be going through each of them in order. And I'll be ranking them according to how useful I think they are within a facility. So, we will start at the very beginning with one sin and hundreds of good deeds. Unless you are specifically glitching the game, you cannot avoid one sin and hundreds of good deeds. He's decent all around. It's always there for you. It will save you from White Knight when things go terribly. Because he is, out of every abnormality in the game, it is the only one that is functionally impossible to go without. So he gets S for Skull. And that's one sin. For the other rankings, since they actually matter now, we've got Instant Pick. That's, if I see it, I'm taking it. It's that good. I want it in my facility basically all of the time. Pick once, okay after, means it's got really good ego gear or something like that where you'd want to pick it once, but after that, it's okay. Pick once, never again is amazing gear, but it's really, really annoying. Decent is decent. It's a good pick. Mid are the ones I don't feel anything about. Try to avoid is the ones that I think are bad. And then actively problematics are the ones that will probably kill you. And that's all of our tiers right now. So we'll move on to the rest of the Zayins. The first one is Welchers. Now, Welchers is kind of a nothing abnormality. It can kill your guys on occasion. It has a gun. The gun is okay for the very beginning of the game, but overall, it's kind of mid. We'll put it right there in mid. We'll leave it there. Next up, we've got Bald is Awesome, or You're Bald. Now, this one is a meme. Pure and simple. There's no two ways to put it. This entire thing is a meme. However, it's a meme I find funny, so it can go indecent, because it cannot actually kill any of your guys, it can only render them bald. Welchers can kill them. After that, we've got Fairy Festival. Fairy Festival is... honestly... it was the first abnormality I ever got in my first playthrough, other than one sin, and it served me very well, so I kind of have a soft spot for it, but I have to admit that it's ultimately not very good. It doesn't really do anything. You get a little bit of healing from it that's not going to matter, because it's not enough to do anything. If you try and assign a work to anything other than it, it'll kill you instantly, which isn't going to matter because it's not going to do anything. You get a lot of its gear, but it's kind of worthless. Mid, but above Welchers, because I'm biased. Don't Touch Me is next on our list, and that one is... don't touch it. Like, that's all there is to it. As long as you don't touch it, nothing bad will happen. However, it is actually vitally important to the speedrun of this game. It is used to rapidly force things to break out and trigger effects that they want in order to speed up their overall progress through the game. Because it is good in the speedrun specifically, I feel like that elevates it above mid. I'll put it at the bottom of decent for now. We'll come back to you. Finally, there's Army in Pink. Army in Pink is a Zayin abnormality. Now, it has a lot of E-boxes, that's true. However, it's one of the clerk's rights ones who gets mad when people die. And because it gets mad when people die, this basically can cause it to break out at an inconvenient time. And when it does, everything goes bad, because it's very hard to suppress in time unless you have an absolutely cracked out facility. So, because it can be kind of troublesome, the question becomes, is its stuff worth it? And the answer to that is, kind of. Pink's, as a set, does give itself a lot of damage, and it also gives itself a, The Ego suit is pretty good as well. I think it's one of the ones that's 1.5 times on Pale, in which does hurt it a little, because if you're in an Aleph gear, you really want to be 1 times or better on Pale resistances. But it's still an Aleph suit. It's going to resist most things. The problem is the gun. It is so slow to start firing, and if you have to pick a new target, you have to set up again. So in slower fights, in fights against a lot of smaller enemies, it's not very good. You feel me? So it's like, overall, I'd say it's got a good suit. The gift makes the gun shoot better, but the gun is still kind of bad, so whatever. Oh, it does have 1.0 Pale Defense. I just finished checking that out. Altogether, I'd say I'd pick it once and then never again. It's not that great. Next up, we have our Teth abnormalities, which starts with Training Rabbit Dummy. I can't pick him. He's mid. Next up is Fragment of the Universe. Now, Fragment of the Universe is very important because it's a very easy to suppress breachable abnormality, which helps a lot in the early game when you're dealing with HODS missions. After that, he's just sort of there. It doesn't really do anything. That is a problem. And when it does escape, it's generally a relatively free suppression. Because it is so uncomplicated, because it's an early access to black weapons and its suit is decent for the early game, I'd put this one in decent. I'd take him most of the time. Then there's 1.76 megahertz. Megahertz is one of the earliest Justice trainers in the game, and because Justice is the most important stat to be able to get up somehow, this makes it fundamentally good. It has the problem of not actually having any ego gear, and what gear it does have, the suit, is really bad for early game because it is weak to red damage, which is what most of your early game threats will be dealing. So it's training over gear at the end of the day, but it's still good. I'm thinking it goes here, slightly below Fragment of the Universe. Then we have the Meat Lantern. Meat Lantern in a late game facility will not be able to be worked without immediately breaking out on you. When he breaks out on you, he's going to camp out in front of the door of another one of your containment cells, and whenever you walk by, he will chomp you. This means that you have to then dedicate additional focus every time you work him to shooting him in the face. This is annoying. So he's our first actively problematic one, because I would honestly I'd rather get punched in the face by Pode than deal with than deal with Meat Lantern. Next up, we have the lady facing the wall. Early source of... Okay, she's an early source of white. Even later on in the game, she's basically a nothing abnormality. She doesn't really do much of anything, and what little she does do is just mild amounts of white damage. It's like, oh no, white damage. So yeah, you can take her in pretty much any facility, she'll work fine. Sheep. I have forgotten the true name of the sheep, but it's the sheep that puts you to sleep. Honestly, this one is kind of mid. It leaves no impression. I know it turns into a giant chicken. Void Dream. Its name was Void Dream. It turns into a giant chicken, and when it does, it'll put random people to sleep. It has a stat gate on it, which is fundamentally nothing, because it's only like Temperance 2 in order to avoid going to sleep. However, it's like it'll break out whenever it gets a bad result, and it's just temperamental enough to where that'll happen more than you'd like. So I'd say this one's probably a try to... No, it's not worse than Well Shears. I'll put it here. Like, it can't really kill your guys unless you're an idiot, so it can go slightly above Well Shears. Poday's a good little boy. Poday's an absolutely good little boy. Okay, we love Poday in this house. Here's the thing about Poday. It breaches, but it's easy to put back, making it super easy for any of those breach missions. It is an amazingly good instinct trainer, which is good because instinct is all it's got, and he's a good little boy. Yeah, he is. He's just the cutest little thing. Matter of fact, the only reason he's not in S tier is because S is for Skull. Otherwise, he would be up there. Because Poday is such a good one. He's such a good little Poday. If anyone can send me like 100 pictures of Poday, you will get a free My Gratitude. Appreciate you. Bloodbath, in my heart of hearts, I already know where Bloodbath is going. Bloodbath is mid. It doesn't do anything. It's the most nothing pick there is. And even from a training standpoint, it likes temperance work, but, it likes prudence work, but really it wants temperance to be worked on it. So it's not an optimal trainer. Its gear is really mid, and it's super short range. It probably won't kill you unless it does, but, like, it's just not good. Void Dream can go above it. There we go. It'll put it there. Now, next up is Spider Bud, and if I'm going to give Bloodbath the mid of the mid tier, we're going to give Spider Blood the mid of the mid tier. I'm going to give it slightly higher because Gibora wields it in Phase 1, and Gibora's the fucking best, so we'll put it there, and we will call it at that. Punishing Bird. So Punishing Bird, I'm going to explain this one. It's annoying. Not because you have to listen to the pshk, pshk, pshk noise. No, that's actually funny. I love that. I'll listen to that all day long. It's annoying because it will break out, and when it's broken out and you get to the end of your day, you either have to wait for it to go back on its own, which wastes your time, or sit there and wait for... Or just take your one lob and move on. It is what it is. However, he's a very good bird as long as you do not have the umbrella equipped. If you do, someone's going to die. That's just how it works. And you really have to kind of dedicate resources to keeping Punishing Bird in one section, or it will just wander all over the place. That's just kind of its thing. I would say you definitely want to pick it once because it is a bird, and birds are really important. Also, it is a breaching Teth. You would have to be a crazy person to use it for any of the breaching missions, but it is an option. and there are ways to suppress it without triggering Redbird mode. We'll come back to that. Then next up we've got Old Lady. Old Lady is... I'm actually torn on Old Lady between being mid and being decent. She's like on the upper level of mid or on the lower level of decent, because like no matter what, she's just kind of there. She will inevitably build up that resentment, and once she does, you'll have to work her in order to make anything happen, and it'll just immediately just waste a work for the day as your guy stands there and shudders. But by the same token, she does have a 6-shooter that deals white damage, and I like that. So I'm gonna put her on the lowest level of decent. She can go above Don't Touch Me. By the same token, Shy Look Today is roughly the same. Shy Look Today is a little bit more annoying than Old Lady because it will actively waste your time. Because you'll send someone towards it, and then you just have to play... You either just roll the dice and pray you get a good result, or you have to very specifically dick around with it in order to get it to do what you want it to do. And that just feels kind of mid to me, so I'm gonna put it in mid. You did your best, buddy. Scorched Girl is... I would pick her for the Teth breaching missions, and I would pick her for her equipment, because that cannon is a lot of damage. Like, the damage that she does on her cannon, even though it is Teth level, holds up through most of the game. Only once you start getting into Aleph gear does it really start falling off in overall damage comparisons, just because of how big the chunk that cannon deals is. With that being the case... like, even after she's done, as long as you're paying attention, she's not that dangerous. I'd say she's a pick once okay after. She's a little worse than Punishing Bird, but she can go in that tier. Sakura Tree. I would honestly just try to avoid this one. Its gear looks really cool, but it's not very good. And in addition to that, it just sort of, every few times you work it, it'll call a bunch of people. You have to click on them a whole lot to stop them from walking in there, or else you'll lose clerks, and losing clerks is never a good thing unless you're shooting them yourself with execution bullets, because it will make people angry. And by people, I mean Army and Black. And some other things that we'll get to later. So yeah, I'll just try and avoid that one. It's not great. Speaking of things that are not great, I lied. We're talking about Forsaken Murderer instead. Forsaken Murderer is actually really good. His weapon deals very good damage for his early game, red-resistant gear, which is something that you look for in the early game, which most Teths are early game abnormalities. It's what you want for your early training, your early gear, all of that. It also breaches and is a super easy suppression. I'd put it on the same level. I'd actually put it slightly above Fragment of the Universe. Reason being is that Forsaken Murderer specializes in red damage, which you want to be able to block more than Fragment of the Universe, which is slightly more black aligned, and black stuff doesn't happen until endgame, and by endgame you do not want to be wearing Teth suits. Just how it is. And our last Teth... So Beauty and the Beast is another Justice trainer. It is slower in every way than 1.76 megahertz, but it's also the only other real option for Justice training you have at Teth level. It gives better gear than 1.76, but it also, by necessity, trains half as quickly because you're going to be spending half of your Beauty and the Beast runs not training Justice, because if you repress it twice in a row, it dies, you lose a person. Given that, I'd say it's like the bottom of the decent Teths. It's slightly better than Bald, because Bald is a meme pick. but it can go here. And that is it for the Teths. Now we get to look at the He abnormalities. First off, we have Graveyard of the Dead Butterflies, Funeral of the Dead Butterflies. What was the name? One sec. Funeral of the Dead Butterflies. That's the one. So, Funeral of the Dead Butterflies. It's got a stat cap on it, but because it's a justice trainer, because it's responsible to oppression, it's pretty much the first thing you'll want a new agent to be thrown at, and new agents, even HOD-boosted new agents, are always under that. Additionally, it has the coolest weapons in the game, dealing both white and black damage, which is sometimes a bad thing, sometimes a good thing, but always a cool thing. I would say this one is always, you definitely want to pick it once, just because it has wall guns and I'm gonna call it wall, I'm pronouncing it wrong, but that's, you guys know me, that's how I've always done things. So we're going wall, and because they are wall tier guns, they're very powerful, and it's just good. What more do you need? It's a judgment. Justice trainers start getting really good once you get to He, and because of that, you really kind of want them around. Speaking of justice trainers that are good, Little Helper. This guy, our lovely little Cleanobot, is a dual instinct and repression trainer. It can breach, and if it does, it's really easy to avoid. You can just bait it into spinning itself out, get out of the room, go back in, beat the snot out of it. And you can do that as much as you need to because it's really, really stupid. Given that this is the case, it's kind of low risk, and it's basically perfectly timed in terms of when you'll likely see one to be able to give you red gear in time for your first noon. And given that noons can involve things like green noon, that is a massive deal. I would say this can go at the top of decent for now, because it's just better than Forsaken Murderer in every way, while functionally fulfilling the same role. And then we have Gun. Gun is an instant pick for me. My reason why it is an instant pick for me is because it is also a repression trainer, or it only requires that you have a certain level of justice in order to function properly. If so long as you do, he will let you train him as long as you want, no matter what the rest of your stats are. This is very handy. I would go so far as to say he's probably the best repression trainer in his entire area in terms of reliability versus boxes and all of that. And most importantly, he has Gun. Gun does not get used often, but when it does, it solves problems. It can suppress Punishing Bird without ever triggering Punishing Bird's red mode. This is huge. It can kill clerks if for some reason you need to kill clerks. This will piss off certain abnormalities like Army in Black, but it can do it. It is super versatile. If I see it, I'm gonna grab it. Just make sure that whoever you give his weapon to stands by themselves at all times. Leave them apart from everyone else. Use them as an independent operative to solve problems on their own, which they can do. One person in his full ego regalia can solo any Dusk in the game with just a little bit of micro. It is insane. So yeah, instant pick for Dershuti. Fetus. Okay, so I'm torn on Fetus. On the one hand, it's annoying. It will regularly, just due to some slightly bum luck, decide to have a neutral result. On a neutral result, it has a chance to start crying. In the event that it starts crying, everything else in the area is taking white damage, and any of your abnormalities in that same department will lose Cliff-Off counter. This means that it can cascade and cause problems, and the only way to solve this is by roulette-wheeling yourself in praying you hit a clerk instead of the agent you spent all year on. However, the world record New Game Plus speedrun starts with it and uses it to become invincible. Like, it's the same tier as this. So, it's not... I want to put it and try to avoid, but I bumped this one up a tier just for being so vital to speedrunning tactics. So I guess it can be at the very bottom of mid. Snow Queen. Snow Queen I don't have a lot to say about. She is there. She doesn't cause a lot of problems. If she does lock someone up, you can just send in someone with 5 fortitude, and now you both get an ego gift out of it. Her stuff is fine. She's decent. I'll put her around here. I take most T's over most Teths, so I'll put her here. Singing Machine sucks. If you get it, you're not going to be able to work it if you've already cleared hot or have put any real effort into training, so you have to basically make someone to dedicatedly work on it. In return for this, you get not a whole lot of benefit, and in the event that its Qliphoth counter falls, which is likely, someone's going to yeet themselves into that thing, and once they do, suddenly everyone around you is basically slowly trying to kill each other and throw each other into the machine. It cascades outward, it cascades in a problematic manner, it insta-kills your guys. I don't like it. The gear is good, but it's not that good. If you are going to take it, then do it, and then repository and save yourself some trouble. Child of the Galaxy. I'm going to go ahead and put you in decent right now. It can give massive healing to... It can give decent, overtime healing to your entire facility if you are bored enough to have everyone in the entire game work with it. I don't recommend doing that because that is a lot of effort, but you can. It works. There is no issue with it. So, it's also... It deals black damage and has perfectly middling rates with literally everything. You can use it to train whatever you want. It's mid at it. It'll be fine. You don't have to worry. Letitia is a good girl who has done nothing wrong in her life. Scarecrow searching for wisdom, I would go ahead and put at the upper end of mid. It doesn't really give any gear that's particularly standout. It's okay. It breaches all of the time once you've gotten to the point where you can actually, when you're in mid-game. And while it's not a terrible suppression, it is more threatening than things like Little Helper. And if it starts sucking your clerks dry or whatever, it can heal itself back up and basically waste your time. It's just annoying. That's it. That's really it. I just think it's kind of annoying. It's kind of mid. Red Shoes. The Red Shoes is temperamental in that it only has one Qliphoth counter and it's relatively easy to make it fail for whatever reason. Because of that, it will randomly just grab people, which can draw your attention away. You have to double click on them or else someone's got an axe and they're running around with it. Now, the thing I like about the Red Shoes is that it has incredibly good ego gear for the early game. It's got a 0.6 red modifier, which is absurd on He, so I would strongly recommend it, but in a long-term facility, yeah, it'll only grab clerks because your temperance is too high on everyone else who matters, but it's just not... I'd pick it once for the gear and then never again. I'd also probably pick it over Army in Black. Schadenfreude. It is a repression trainer. It requires you not be looking at it to work. As long as you know this, it's pretty friggin' great. It's not quite an instant pick, but it does have a 0.9 to everything suit, pretty much. And it's really easy to work. If you're completely insane, you can even try and control how many... if you're doing instinct work with it, you can try and control how many points of damage it does to you by looking at it to force failures, but this plan would be insane, so I do not recommend it. Don't do that. Love yourself. Woodsman. I'd put Woodsman and try to avoid as well. It's a little bit more annoying than the Cherry Blossoms. Reason being is because you can work it once, and if the person you're working with has any amount of temperance whatsoever, you're not working with it again. If you do, whoever you put in there instantly dies. An abnormality you can only work once is not very good. Pure and simple. So, given that, I would say it's a try to avoid for me. Rudolta. Okay, so Rudolta is decent. He gives decent gear for the point in the game where you can see him, and I do like the Christmas weapon because it makes me laugh. Because it makes me laugh, and because he's a pretty good prudence trainer, I'll say he's decent. I put him about here. I'll put him with the Snow Queen. She's another decent trainer for it. Then we got Porcupus. Porcupus, the most annoying thing about it is avoiding the insta-kill. As long as you can, it's not a problem. It's an instinct trainer. I'll put it on the same tier as the other HP-SP trainers. These three can go together. They're basically the same. They're just slightly different. Teddy Bear, an attachment trainer who's not particularly good at attachment, whose weapons are very short, which, the reason I do not like very short-range weapons as a rule is because there are certain fights in the game where very short will get you killed. I'm specifically thinking of Green Midnight, where if you have very short, you can't hit it without it constantly hitting you, making you functionally useless. But then again, Second Amendment, right to bear arms, I feel like I can't really fault it for that. It's just kind of here because it's not very good at anything, and you have to remember who you last sent, which you can just read the log in the lower left corner. Spoilers, there's a log in the lower left corner. But as long as you read that, you're fine. That leads us to Alrune. Alrune is really annoying. You have to neutral it or it'll break out. If it breaks out, it teleports all over the place and just kind of hangs out being annoying. And you have to show up and beat the snot out of it very slowly. It takes forever, it's a pain in the ass, and it's very difficult to force neutrals on it. I would try to avoid it, just in general. Its gear isn't even honestly worth it to be a pick once, never again. Like, it's got a good white damage crossbow, but there are better weapons for less problem. Speaking of better weapons and less problems, Red Riding Hooded Mercenary. Now, she's a good trainer because she deals red damage and likes instinct. That's fine. You can pay her PE boxes to go out and hunt things that are giving you problems, in which case she'll do fine. If too many things breach, she'll break out and help you hunt them on her own. And if you piss her off, she'll kill you. Except not really. She doesn't do a whole lot of damage as long as you keep your distance. All of her really strong stuff is like in melee or the one dagger throw. I would say I would always pick her once, just because she has... No, I can't even say I would do that. Her suit is pretty good, but her gear is kind of mid. I'll put her here. This feels right. Repression trainers are slightly... But she can also kind of train repression. She's not as good at it as these two. She can go here. I like this spot. We'll do that. I might come back to her. La Luna. La Luna is... I don't have any strong feelings about La Luna. Mid. Queen of Hatred. I'm gonna make a controversial take here, because I know she is the killer of new players. She is. But you have to pick her once. That's not optional. One, because it is a rite of passage to get murdered by a snake. And two, because her gear is cool. Like, you can be a magical girl. Why would you not just put the most badass person in your entire facility in the magical girl outfit, have them shoot multicolored healing bolts that also damage the enemy? her gear is worth it. Now, she's terrible as a trainer. She will go crazy if you do not carefully micromanage her. I'm actually talking myself out of this one, now that I'm thinking about it. Like, I don't have any problem with her because I never forget to kill 3 clerks every hour, because, of course. And you can do it by letting Scarecrow out. You can do it by shooting them with gun. With gun. Just saying. You can do it by having Pote come out and kill them. You've got your options, but honestly, yeah, no, she's going to the top of pick once, never again. That's fair. That seems fair. King of Greed. She is temperamental as fuck. There is no polite way to put that, because she is temperamental as fuck. She will breach, you will be dealing with a fish. The fish is not particularly threatening as long as you don't get really unlucky and wind up with her, like, coming down a corridor that has only one exit and your guy is working on an abnormality in there. But that's really rare. I'd say, and her gear is really good, so you definitely want her once, because her gear has, like, the only very short-range weapon that I would consider worth picking, because she is... It's an Aleph tier weapon. After that, you can take her, leave her. But she's okay. She's okay. And I would put our lovely lady, Knight of Despair, up to instant pick. She is our 5th instant pick. The reason she is an instant pick is expressly because she makes one person functionally twice as tanky. They take more damage from Pale. Oh no, nothing in the game uses Pale. Who cares? Her gear is really good. It has a special attack that deals a lot of damage on top of its normal attack mode. It deals white. Her actual armor is one of the easiest ways to break into having Pale resistance. So if you get her, you can work with any of the Pale abnormalities much more easily. She's just good. So I really can't praise her enough. I put her second to this guy, but we'll talk about them later. Anyways, next up is the shark with the needles, whose name I forget. It leaves no strong impression. It's mid. Like, it gives you a lot of gear, but the gear isn't good. Next up, we have Little Prince, also known as the mushroom that burrows into your soul and turns you into a slavering zombie that tries to tell other people about mushrooms so that they too can become mushroom. Why does that sound familiar? Anyways, you must absolutely take it once, because Spore is incredible. The Spore Spear is so incredibly powerful that you want to get as many of them as you can possibly have, just for the damage multiplier effect they can have on other white weapons, which are one of the most plentiful type in the game. And then once you have it, because it's a pain in the ass to work, I would probably avoid it after that, but you must grab it once for that weapon. Naked Nest is an instant pick. This is because it is an excellent... It's an excellent repression trainer. It's an excellent instinct trainer, so you can get both your fortitude and your justice up with it. On top of that, it has a massive friggin' cannon as its weapon that will also make red damage attacks deal more damage, so it's incredible there. The suit itself is good across the board, no complaints. It doesn't breach, it doesn't cause problems. I was trying to get this thing to activate once to do the thing that it does, and I had to sit there for like 3 hours trying to get it to go through, and it just did not want to. The thing is functionally a Zayin abnormality. It's perfectly safe. Trust me. Big Bird I would put at the top of pick once, okay after. Reason being is because, like Little Prince and like Naked Nest, the Lamp Ego weapon is your black booster. There is no pale booster, so those 3 are the 3 booster weapons, so you really want to make sure to get all of them. Big Bird, because its cliff-off counter can go back up if you work it appropriately, I would say it is significantly easier than most of the Clerk's Rights abnormalities, because while it will go down, it's going down from like 4 or 5, so you've got wiggle room, and you can bring it back up afterwards. It generally is not going to breach on you without you trying to make it breach, unless you hit second trumpet. At that point, something has gone wrong, and that's really just not a problem. It's fine. I like this guy. This bird is a friend of mine. Speaking of birds that are a friend of mine, Longbird. Longbird, I'm gonna put... No, Big Bird goes above Longbird. Or Judgment Bird. Don't make me actually choose between those two. I'm gonna put them in that order because that's how we roll. Those two are both really good. But Justita, as Ego Gear, is friggin' incredible. The hardest part of getting Judgment Bird, particularly early, is it can be hard to work without just dying because of how pale resistances work and everyone is taking like double damage of a % of their max HP. It will just kill you. But once you get Justita, everything is fine. Like, it's an incredibly good weapon. It will save your ass, and on top of that, the suit itself is 0.5 to everything. I don't need to tell you why that's good. It's straight up Aleph gear. It's incredible. So yeah, pick once, okay after. Dream of a Black Swan, meanwhile, I'm gonna put in decent. Just because, like, Dream of the Black Swan should be mid, except, functionally speaking, it cannot breach. Something about here, I guess. Like, it's functionally just on par with these guys, only it gets minuses, so you have to work other things over the course of a thing. But, like, you have to fulfill 5 separate conditions to make this thing breach, and it's just not going to do that. Unless you are trying to, it'll never be a problem. So, Black Swan can stay there. Only thing is, it's Ego Gear. Like, the Reflect can theoretically save you. It will never work when you need it to, and it will always work when Punishing Bird is hitting your person. So, like, maybe the Umbrella's fine. I don't recommend it, but that's a me thing. The Monk is the worst of the Clerk's Rights abnormalities because it doesn't really do anything useful for you. It doesn't build anything bigger. Its Ego Gear is bad. It is, like, it's just kind of annoying. I'd try to avoid him. Not much to say there. Next up, we have the Firebird. I think the fact that the Firebird is the Firebird is kind of funny. I'd say pick it once, but like after that maybe don't, because if you do a good job with it, it'll breach on you, and then you have to deal with the Firebird being out. And it's not hard to get it back down, you just have to do a bad job with it, but it's not really worth futzing with. The weapon is nice, the weapon is not that nice. Also, you can only get 1 weapon a day, and it maxes at 3. So you have to kill it on 3 consecutive days if you want everything, which is a little annoying, but it's doable. Ultimately, I can't say that I'm a fan, but it is very pretty. I would probably pick it over Red Shoes, actually. Oh, Parasite Tree. Oh, where do I put you? Let's talk through Parasite Tree. The gear is okay. You're shooting white. It shoots relatively fast. It has a long range, so it can clear running type panic people. However, If you work with other things, it will decide it wants to call people to it. It blesses them. It turns people into trees unless you're paying attention to it. Like, it demands a significant portion of your attention in return for giving you not really a lot. I don't know if I'd call it actively problematic. No. I would call it actively problematic. It's less so than the other two, but it is annoying as balls. Just because you have to stay on top of it, or else you're going to be double-clicking people to keep them from going in there. Or you're just going to be execution bulleting clerks, which you can't do after you've killed all of the clerks. Burrowing Heaven is a Voss class repression trainer that you have to be looking at in order to make work. It goes directly to the top of decent. This is because if you know what you're doing, it should never cause you problems, and it will train your justice. Alongside any other stat you want it to train, it has usable stats all around the board, and it deals black damage, so it's dealing the right damage to hit your damage modifiers. Its gear is pretty good. It's nothing to write home about, but I'd use it. It's good against black damage, which is important come end game, which is about when you're gonna want to really be going into your wall gear anyway. I'd say it's good. Apple is as temperamental as King of Greed, but instead of being relatively slow and easy to deal with, Apple does two things of note. One, it fills corridors with vines that will slow your people down, and even after you suppress her, the vines will be there for the rest of the day. You can't get rid of them. That is annoying as hell. Two, she lags the hell out of my PC. There's no nice way to say it. If she breaches, I am going to be playing not at frames per second, but as seconds per frame. Actually, I think that puts her in actively problematic. Yeah, makes my computer stall and sputter. Definitely counts as actively problematic. I think I have to put her down at the bottom of the list, actually, because at least Singing Machine will not break my current game. Diffraction's okay. I'd put it up here next to Red. It's inoffensive. You have to make sure that the people you're working with it have high temperance, but that's not a big deal. As long as you're doing that, it will never break out and cause you problems. If you need it to break out and cause you problems, that's relatively easy to do. Just have someone with slightly lower temperance work it. It works out. It's perfect. So it's a good one. Next up we have Big and Will Be Bad Wolf. I don't think I can put it in decent, because if I do, a fight will break out. But I don't want to put it below Red. Well, no. I think I have to choose violence here. It's an instinct trainer. That's all it's good for. That's all it can really do. But it's a pretty darn good instinct trainer. I'll put about 3 abnormalities between him and Red. That should keep it from breaking out and then everything getting nasty. It is very funny to have both of them in the same facility. It's even funnier if you get both of them directly next to each other. Do it sometimes if you hate yourself. Yin is an instant pick for me. The reason why is because its Ego Gift gives me a massive boost to my Justice stats, and I like going fast. The other reason is because you can do really funny things with that dragon, if you are a crazy person. That said, because of Yin, this also means that Yang is an instant pick on the same exact tier. Reason being is if you hit Yang, you're going to get Yin. You hit Yin, you're going to hit Yang. They go together. They're very, very good at what they do, and ultimately, it's not worth worrying about beyond that. Also, Yin trains repression. I like that. I'd actually probably take them over just shooting. So yeah, like that. And our last Va is Queen Bee. I think Queen Bee's gear looks really cool. I think its gimmick is a little annoying, but it's only a little annoying. It has killed me before, but also, like, most things in this game have killed me at least once, so I can't hold that against it. I think it fits well in Pick Once, Never Again tier. And that leaves our Alephs. Blue Star is definitely an instant pick. I think I'd take Naked Nest over... No, I'd take it over. Yeah. Hold on, let me check something. I am looking up the gear for Blue Star. If it's 1.0 Pale, then... Yeah, it's 1.0 Pale. Okay. Yeah, I'd actually put it over even Night of Despair. My reason for this is very simple. It generates a heck of a lot of energy. It is an incredibly good Prudence or Justice trainer. Basically, it'll finish either one of them off super quickly. If it breaches, you're gonna die, but it basically never breaches on its own. You have to screw something up for it to break out. It's remarkably safe as a result of that. Its gear is incredible. Being able to shoot across an entire room for a whole crap ton of white damage. It's 0.4 to everything, making it just a better Justita, though it does only have 1.0 Pale instead of 0.4, or instead of 0.5. But it's still Aleph gear, meaning that it's 1.0 Pale. You can theoretically use it to break into Pale as well. It is really, really good. Which brings us to Nothing There. I would say Nothing There, of course. Anything in Aleph, you're probably going to want its gear. So it's definitely in one of these two. The question is whether or not I think it's okay afterwards. Nothing There specifically is a little bit temperamental, but it's only a little bit temperamental. Like, it's not going to cause major issues. Unless it breaks out, which it shouldn't. But what if it does? Then you have a problem. Except it's not really that bad until it gets to phase 3. I think I'm leaning towards Pick Once okay after, just because of how strong it is in terms of just gathering stuff. I'd put him around King of Greed tier, I think. And if it ever drops down to 1, you've already lost a person, so just don't work it again and accept your fate. And that brings us to Melting Love. I'm going to level with you. Melting Love is one of those ones that people say kills you, but she's never really that bad for me. Like, yeah, you have to quarantine the entire area to get real work done, but that's not hard to do. And once you're done with her, you can just ignore her outside of meltdowns, pop in a repression work, call it a day. So, like, she's benign, but I feel like she should go in Never Again. She annoys me less than Little Prince, but I'd pick Little Prince over her. I'd pick Little Prince over all of these people. Yeah, we'll put it like that. That looks fine. Orchestra. Orchestra is Alrune, but with good gear. I do not like dealing with Orchestra. The only thing it has going for it, the only arguable reason you'd want to keep it in your facility is specifically for its ego gift, which pairs with the suit to give you functionally white immunity. There's two main problems with that, though. One, the suit is one of the only 1.5 times pale suits on Aleph, meaning that the really dangerous things kill you faster. And two, nothing scary in endgame uses white damage. Good job, you're immune to something that doesn't matter. So yeah, Pick Once, Never Again. The gear's good, but like it's the worst of the good gear. Mountain of Smiling Bodies. Yeah, I'd put him slightly above Justita. Smile is incredible. It makes you almost immune to black damage, which most of the major threats in in-game deal black or pale. So being nigh immune to one of the two damages, and certainly the more common one, is incredible. Its weapon is good. It heals you when walking over corpses. This allows you to clean up corpses for things like Censored or Mountain of Smiling Bodies itself. It also, when it breaches, if you're fast, is not a lot of trouble, and if you're slow, it's still not a lot of trouble. You just have to micro more. You can kill this thing with one agent if you know what you're doing and are willing to drag it around. It's not a big deal. So I'd say pick it once, definitely, and then it's okay after that. Censored. The hardest part of Censored is breaking into Censored. I would pick Mountain of Smiling Bodies before Censored just because Smile ensures that you can work Censored pretty much 100% of the time. Otherwise, you have to get a little bit tricky or get a little bit lucky or just use someone with relatively low prudence. Like, if they have a 2 prudence and are working with Censored, they have a 95% chance to hit, meaning that they will probably be fine. The main problem there comes if it breaches. If it does, either call the rabbits or make very sure it does not get the chance to propagate. Because if it propagates too much, you are going to be just dead. Too many things in its corridor means you will automatically take your entire SP bar and panic, and if you panic, you cannot stop him. That said, the upside of Censored is its weapon makes you much harder to kill. Because it will automatically refund a portion of any damage that you take, it effectively cuts all damage you take by like 40 or 60%, something like that. Equipping that on pretty much anything will allow you to work any abnormality in the game, and you could even get all bads, and you will probably survive. This includes... It's time to talk about White Knight. White Knight is an instant pick for me, not because it isn't dangerous. It is dangerous. If you screw it up, it is an instant restart of your day. Period. However, in exchange for choosing White Knight, you get 2 functionally immortal agents. And in this game, being functionally immortal is hilariously broken. You can assign both of them to just sit around and do whatever needs doing, one with the Sin Sword for even more damage cut, and the other with the Paradise Lost weapon if you have it. You can give them both the Sin Sword. It doesn't matter. What matters is that their armor is so powerful that they can tank anything in the game and take maybe 30 damage off of it. You just can't kill them, period. And because they are functionally immortal, you can use them in in-game to do things like assign them to Gabora to just beat the snot out of her, and then just ignore them while you do other things. You have these 2 people by themselves attack Bina during the Day 49 clusterfuck, and then you just ignore them. It's incredible. You do have to make absolutely sure that you're continuing to stay on top of the baby, but this is not hard. As long as you're playing with any mindfulness whatsoever, 1 minute and 30 seconds is more than enough time. So, like, it's incredible in that once you have it, you can't lose the game anymore. And anything that makes you fundamentally incapable of loss, as long as you just don't screw up, is an instant pick from me. Period. And Apocalypse Bird isn't technically in your facility, but you want to do it once. You always need to do Apocalypse Bird once if you can. The reason why you want to do Apocalypse Bird once if you can is because its Ego Gear is the best offensive tools in the game. In terms of damage, it wins. It's not even close. And also, the Ego Gift that it gives you is very powerful. So you want to ideally have a bunch of people, all of whom survive the day, so they can all get the fancy Ego Gift and get +7 all stats. Now, I do think that after that, you never want to see it again. This is fine, however, because the Apocalypse gear makes it so that it won't show up ever again as long as someone's wearing it. It's fine. You're golden. That being the case, it's a pick once, never again. I'll put it at the top of pick once, never again, because it's a pick once, never again, because once you've picked it once and done it, you have everything you could need. You never have to do it again, and the game won't let you. So that's all the abnormalities. Now we're looking at tools. First tool is you must be happy. No, you mustn't be happy. Anyways, you must be happy is an instant pick for me. Reason why it's an instant pick for me is because it's one of the few good tools in the game. It will completely just hard counter a couple of the harder things to do in the game, specifically the HOD suppression and then the second meaner HOD suppression, both hard countered by just having the ability to say no. And outside of that, it doesn't cause any problems. Like, yeah, if you power someone up too much, they'll explode, but that's only if you power them up too much. If they're just going back to their normal numbers, or if they're already maxed so you can only power them up a little bit more, there's functionally no harm in having it around. It is incredibly useful. We can change anything. It will eat a meltdown every now and again, and it is absolutely vital to the speedrun. So I'm putting it in speedrun tier, next to our boy Don't Touch Me. I think it's decent. I wouldn't use it myself, but it does its job. It doesn't give you a lot of energy, but it doesn't actively hurt you, so it's fine. Behavioral implant. Instant pick. Reason why is because it actually gives you justice. And that's it. There's no real downside. Like, if you run out of SP, you die. If you ran out of SP, you were probably already going to die soon anyway. It just makes sure that it just speeds it up a little bit. Because you're going to be giving it to your best agents, this shouldn't be a problem for you. So it is incredibly good as far as tool abnormalities go. Speaking of incredibly good, oh my god, Time Machine. Backwards Clock does one thing. The thing that it does, however, is completely skip one of Bina's phases. You only ever fight her twice, but she is such a problematic fight for most people that being able to just no-sell an entire phase at the cost of one agent who doesn't even have to be wearing anything is incredible. So I would say it is very much worth the time investment. It's a little harder to use during her suppression fight because you have to warm it up during phase 1. But in day 49, because you have 5 meltdown levels before she shows up, it's functionally free to have it online before then. Train. Okay, so Train... We need... No, this isn't enough. Hold on, let me just... Train is the worst abnormality in the game. Like, it puts you on a strict timer in exchange for bollocks. It's bad. I can't say it any more clearly than that. It's just bad. It's just bad. It's just bad. Flesh Idol, meanwhile, is merely a try to avoid. The thing about Flesh Idol is that if you bring your person out before 20 seconds have passed, they die. Period. So the key with Flesh Idol is you put it in there. The damage procs every 5 seconds, so you put it in there, you count to 5, you stop, and they leave. Small problem, you can't always do that. So you put them in there and something else is calling your attention away, now you've got to hyper-focus on that, now you've forgotten about it, uh-oh, everything's breached. It's dangerous. And because it is dangerous, I'm gonna say it's bad. Pure and simple. I would try and avoid it. It's not actively problematic. Tool abnormalities can't be actively problematic, but it is still very, very bad. That brings us back to Luminous Bracelet. Luminous Bracelet is actively problematic, not because it itself is a problem, but because there is a floating point error that makes it functionally useless. Like, it's the end result of Proj Moon coding has earned it the actively problematic tier. It's fine to pick up, just put it back down almost immediately. It can't do anything. Yggdrasil's Tree Sap, the Tree Sap, World Tree Sap, I would say it's mid, specifically because everybody gets one swig before there's a problem. Because of this, the most you could ever possibly need to drink from it on a normal day is 10 times. This would be if somehow a meltdown hits it every single level and you're working the entire day. Even then, you have more than enough people to drink from it with people left over. Everybody gets one swig. Actually, let me make sure that's how it works, because it might be slightly different. Giant Tree Sap. Okay. Never mind. It's tied to the abnormality itself rather than the people who use it. That puts it slightly above Flesh Idol. Still bad. Still bad. But it's you were almost to mid-tier, but I had a fundamental misunderstanding about the way you worked. Go down. Hammer. Hammer is not in this game. It's mid. It's mid. Things that you can't select are mid. Mirror of Aspiration. That goes straight to the top of instant pick, because the thing about Mirror of Admiration is it costs 1 lob to move any of Fortitude, Temperance, or Prudence from level 1 to level 2. It costs 3 times that to do it for Justice. This pattern holds up throughout the entire game. Because of this, Mirror of Aspiration can reshuffle your stats once a day completely for free, and then times after that, this one does track per person. Times after that, it'll subtract stats out. So you only want to do it once, but you do it once, and the people who wind up back at 1, you spin lob getting them back up to 2, and then you spin them again. Anything that fell to 1 goes back up to 2. You continue this until they get like really, really high justice, and you have basically cheated your way through early game training in a hurry. It is incredible how quickly you power up with the mirror. So yeah, mirror is, of the tools, mirror is probably my most instant pick, just because of how it skews the power curve in your favor so quickly. Crane's Researcher's Notes is mid. It's a nothing. It'll blow you up if you use it wrong. Most tools will. It's functionally worthless. Old Promise is a gacha, and we do not support gacha in this household. I'm so very glad that I have only ever used it when I wanted to blow up gear for quests or whatever, so it didn't really matter. It's not very good, though. You can honestly just avoid it. I'd probably take Flesh Idol over it, just because Flesh Idol can do something. Price of Silence. Can't select it. It's mid. I'll just put this one in mid, too. I have no idea what it is. I don't even remember this one. So it just goes in mid. That leaves 2 things. The first one is... 4. We've got 4 things left. First one is Skin Prophecy. I'll give Skin Prophecy decent. The bonus it gives you to SP can allow you to safely work things like Censored. a little bit early. So that's very, very useful just to have on hand. It's not amazing, but there are a few niche situations that it can help you, which makes it very good for a tool. Speaking of very good for a tool, this one goes at the bottom of Instapick just because I think it's funny. It's bad, but it's funny, because you can use it to instantly cheese out Gibura. It takes you like an hour or two, but you just put someone in there and win. I probably shouldn't rate it there just because it's funny. It can be decent. I'd pick it over Skin Prophecy. Yeah. No. You go there. You go there. There. That'll work. Next we have Heart of Aspiration. Heart of Aspiration is an instant pick. I'll put it next to Behavior Modifier. It doesn't do anything. You put it on someone, you forget about it. Raises their Fortitude by like 15. That's it. Slightly below Behavioral Modifier. Doesn't raise... yeah. So that's it. It is utterly benign. That is an instant pick for a tool. And lastly, we've got Teresa. This restores SP, but if you play it for too long, your person goes crazy instead. It's also a try to avoid, but like you can just... this one's instant. You can just put them in, put them right back out. It's fine. So, looking over this, are there any I want to change? I don't think so. There you go, guys. This is your objectively correct tier list as TQ sees it for what is good in Lobotomy Corporation. Feel free to use it to win all of your games forever, and that's it. Once again, thanks very much for getting me up to 10,000 subs. I appreciate y'all. Hope you like the new model, and y'all have yourselves a very merry April Fool's Day. Peace out.